Hi, my name is John DeFilippo, and I will be reading Homer's The Iliad, Book 10, A Night Raid, as translated by Ian Johnston. By their ships, Achaea's most important leaders slept through the night, overpowered by soft sleep, all except Agamemnon, son of Atreus. Sweet slumber did not embrace this shepherd of his people, for his mind was disturbed with many worries. Just as when Zeus, husband of fair-haired Hera, flashes lightning to announce a massive rainstorm, an immense downpour of hail or snow, when fields are sprinkled white or foretell some bitter warfare, the gaping jaws of battle. Just that way then the groans reverberated in Agamemnon's chest, deep in his heart, making his whole body tremble. Every time he looked out on the Trojan plains, he was overcome at the sight of countless fires burning in front of Iliad. The sound of flutes, pipes, the loud noise all those soldiers made. Looking back at the Achaean army and the ships, he tugged many tufts of hair out of his scalp, roots and all, praying to high Zeus above, his brave heart groaning. To him the best plan seemed to be to go to Nestor, son of Neleus, before seeing anybody else, to check if he could come up with some good advice, some plan to save all the Danaans. So he got up, slipped a tunic on over his chest, laced up fine sandals over his sleek feet, and then put on a tawny lion's skin, large and fiery red, extending to his feet. Then he got his spear. Menelaus too was troubled with anxieties. No sleep sat on his eyelids either. He was afraid Argives would be hurt, those who on his account had crossed wide seas to Troy, planning to make war. He covered his broad back with a spotted leopard skin, picking up his bronze helmet, set it on his head, then picked up a spear out of his powerful fist. Next he went to rouse his brother, commander of the Argives, who worshipped him just like a god. Menelaus found him putting his fine armor on by his ship's stern. Agamemnon welcomed him as he approached. Menelaus, skilled in war cries, spoke first. "Brother, you're arming yourself. Why? Are you going to encourage some companion to scout the Trojans out? I really doubt that anyone will do that for you. Set off to spy against a hostile force under the cover of immortal night. Such work would require a courageous heart." Mighty Agamemnon answered Menelaus. "You and I, Lord Menelaus, need advice, some shrewd plan to protect or to save the Argives, together with their ships. Zeus's mind has changed. His heart prefers Hector's sacrifices more than ours. For I've never witnessed yet, nor heard anyone report how one man made so much havoc in a single day as Hector, Zeus's friend, has brought upon us, Achaea's sons, all by himself. He's not a god, nor even a god's son, but he's damaged Argives in a major way, with actions they'll remember for many years to come. That's how badly Hector has harmed the Achaeans. But come, why don't you run quickly by the ships to summon Ajax and Idomeneus? I'll go for a godlike Nestor to rouse him, see if he wants to check our watchmen, tell them strong contingent what to do. They'll attend to him ahead of anyone, because his son is captain of the sentries, along with Meriones, an officer of Idomeneus. We entrusted them above all others with this special work." Menelaus, expert at war cries, then replied, "How do you want me to carry out your orders? Shall I stay there with them, waiting for you to come, or hurry back to you once I've told them your instructions?" Agamemnon, king of men, answered Menelaus, "Stay there, in case we somehow miss each other as we go, for there are many pathways through the camp. But make sure you call out each place you pass, telling troops to stay awake. Call each soldier by his father's name, complimenting all of them. Don't make a show of your own proud heart. We must work too. That's what Zeus charged us with when we were born, a heavy burden of responsibility." Agamemnon spoke, sending his brother off with detailed orders. Then he set out to find Nestor, shepherd of his people. He came across him beside his hut and his black ship in a soft bed, His fine armor lay there with him, shield, 2 spears, his glittering helmet, and that shining belt which the old man strapped around him every time he armed himself to lead his troops in battles which destroy men's lives. Nestor made no concessions to the infirmities of age. Sitting up there, head resting on his arm, he spoke to Agamemnon, questioning him. "Why are you alone like this, wandering among the ships throughout the camp in the pitch-dark night while others sleep? What are you looking for? A mule? Some comrade? Tell me, don't approach in silence. What do you need?" Agamemnon, king of men, replied, "O Nestor, son of Neleus, great glory of Achaeans, you should recognize me, Agamemnon, son of Atreus, the one whom Zeus always loads with miserable fortune, more so than other men, so long as breath stays in my chest and movement in my limbs. I'm wandering like this because sweet sleep won't sit upon my eyelids. Instead, this war, this danger to Achaeans has me worried. I'm dreadfully afraid for the Danaans. My spirit isn't resolute. It wavers. My heart's about to burst outside my chest. My fine limbs tremble. If you want some action, since sleep hasn't come to you either, go with me. We'll walk down to the sentries and check if they're exhausted and asleep, worn out, forgetting to maintain a watch. Hostile troops are camped close by. We don't know if somehow they may be keen to fight at night." Gerenian horseman Nestor then said in reply, "Glorious son of Atreus, king of men, Agamemnon, Counselor Zeus won't fulfill all the things that Hector has in his mind, all his present hopes. In my opinion, Hector will be struggling with more troubles than you face, if Achilles changes his fond heart from its hard anger. Yes, I'll come with you. Let's go get other leaders stirring too. Tydeus, his son, famous for his spear, Odysseus, swift Ajax, and Phyleus, his brave son. Someone should go summon 2 more men, godlike Ajax and Lord Idomeneus. Their ships aren't near here. They're a long way off. But I have some harsh words for Menelaus. Although he's your friend and I respect him, I won't hide that, even if I anger you. For he's still sleeping, leaving you alone to do the work. Right now, he should be active, working on all the finest men, begging them to help us. The need confronting us is urgent." Agamemnon, king of men, replied to Nestor, "Old man, at other times I'd urge you on to criticize him, for often he holds back, reluctant to carry out the heavy tasks, not because he's lazy or soft in the head, because he's looking for my signal, waiting for me to make a move. But this time, he was up and roaming, well ahead of me. He came to see me. I sent him off to summon those very men you mentioned. Let's go. We'll find them right before the gates, where I ordered them to meet the sentries." Gerenian horseman Nestor then replied, "If that's the case, none of the Argives will say bad things of him or disobey when he stirs them on or issues orders." With these words, Nestor put a tunic on his chest, laced lovely sandals over his sleek feet. Around him he buckled on a purple cloak in a double fold, one thickly lined with wool. Selecting a strong spear with a sharp bronze point, he set on his way down to the bronze-clad Achaeans' ships. The first person Gerenian horseman Nestor roused from sleep was Odysseus, equal to the gods for wise advice. Nestor called out to him. His voice entered Odysseus' mind at once. He came out of his hut, then questioned Nestor. "What are you doing here, going around alone like this among the ships in this immortal night? Is there something urgent?" Gerenian horseman Nestor answered Odysseus. "Divinely bred son of Laertes, resourceful Odysseus, don't be angry. Achaeans are experiencing much suffering. But come now, so we may rouse another man, someone who should be there when we discuss our plans, whether we should flee or battle on." Nestor finished speaking. Resourceful Odysseus went into his hut, then slung across his shoulder his finely decorated shield, and set off with them to find noble Diomedes, son of Tydeus. They came across him with his weapons outside his hut. His comrades were asleep around him, their shields under their heads, spears driven upright in the ground by the butt spike. Their bronze spear points glimmered like Father Zeus's lightning. Diomedes slept with the hide of a field ox spread out underneath him, and a bright rug underneath his head. Approaching him, Geranian horseman Nestor shoved him with his foot, waking him up. Nestor then said, teasingly, "Wake up, side of Tydeus. Why sleep all night long? Aren't you aware that Trojans are encamped here on the edges of the plain, near the ships, only a short distance off?" Nestor spoke. Diomedes woke up quickly, then answered him. His words had wings. "Old man, you're a hard one. You never stop working. What about Achaea's other sons, the younger ones? Can't each of them go around, waking up the kings? You, old man, we can't do anything to check you." Geranian horseman Nestor answered Diomedes. "My friend, everything you say is true. I have excellent sons and many soldiers. Any of them could go around with orders. But Achaeans here are in their greatest need. For now things stand upon a razor's edge. Miserable destruction for Achaeans, or their salvation. You're a younger man, so if you feel compassion for me, set off, and wake up Magus and swift Ajax." Nestor spoke. Diomedes threw a lion's skin around his shoulders, a huge red pelt which reached his feet. Then Diomedes grabbed a spear and went away. He woke those warriors and brought them back with him. When they joined up with the company of sentries, they did not find the captains of the watchmen sleeping. They were all sitting with their weapons, wide awake, just as dogs maintain a tired watch over their sheep in some farmyard when they hear a savage beast who just moved down from wooded hills, men and dogs raising a din around it so those dogs get no rest. That's how sweet sleep had left these sentries' eyelids, as they kept guard around that wretched night, always turning towards the plain in case they heard the Trojans coming. Old man Nestor was pleased to see them. He called out, speaking winged words of encouragement. "That's the way, dear friends, to keep a good watch. Don't let sleep seize on any one of you, so we don't bring pleasure to our enemies." With these words, Nestor hurried through the ditch. Argive kings, those who'd been called to council, accompanied him. Meriones went, as did Thrasymedes too, Nestor's noble son, who'd been asked to join the group. They went through the scooped-out ditch. Then in an open spot they sat down where there seemed to be no corpses, no bodies of the slain. It was where fearful Hector turned back from killing Argives, once night hid everything. Sitting down there, they talked to one another. Then Geranian horseman Nestor began to speak. "My friends, is there some man confident enough of his own daring spirit to venture out among stout-hearted Trojans, to see if he can trap an enemy soldier, some straggler, or catch wind of some report of what Trojans say among themselves, whether they are keen to stay beside the ships, away from home, or to go back to the city, now that they have beaten the Achaeans? A man who could find out these things, return to us unharmed, be famous among all men living under heaven, and get rich gifts as well. For our best men, those commanding every ship, will give him a black sheep with suckling lamb. Compared to that, there's no possession finer. At banquets and our drinking parties, he'll always be there." Nestor spoke. The others were quiet, saying nothing. Then Diomedes, expert in war cries, spoke up. "Nestor, my heart and my proud spirit prompt me to infiltrate the hostile Trojans' camp, which stands close by. But another man should come with me. Things would go much better. We'd have more confidence. When two set out, one may see something good before the other. A man alone might notice it, but his mind is less perceptive, less resourceful than two." Diomedes spoke. Many men wished to volunteer. The two Ajaxes, attendants of the war god Ares, were willing. Meriones too. And Nestor's son was really eager. Famous spearman Menelaus, son of Atreus, was ready. And brave Odysseus was keen to steal into the Trojan army, for the spirit in his chest was always daring. Then Agamemnon, king of men, spoke up. Diomedes, son of Tydeus, you delight my heart, but you must choose the other man. Take the one you want, the best of those in view. Many are keen. Don't reject the better man, following a sense of duty in your mind, taking someone less worthy as your comrade, thinking only of his birth. Don't do that, even if the second is the greater king. Agamemnon spoke, afraid for fair-haired Menelaus. Diomedes, skilled in war cries, spoke to them again. If you bid me choose a comrade for myself, how could I reject godlike Odysseus, his hard and daring spirit always keen for every challenge? Pallas Athena loves him. With Odysseus at my side, we'd both return, even from blazing fire. For he knows, better than other men, how to use his mind. Odysseus, that long-suffering, godlike man, replied, Son of Tydeus, don't overpraise me or censure me. You're speaking to the Argives, who know everything about me. Let's go. Night is passing quickly, dawn approaches. The stars have shifted forward, most of the night has passed, 2/3 of it, with 1/3 left. That said, the two men pulled on fearful armor. Warlike Thrasymedes gave a two-edged sword to the son of Tydeus, for he left his own beside the ships and a shield as well. On his head he put a helmet made of leather, without crest or plume, what people call a skull cap. It protected heads of brave young men. Meriones gave Odysseus bow, quiver, and a sword. On his head Odysseus sat a hide cap, on the inside skillfully reinforced with leather thongs. Outside, wild boar's white teeth were placed here and there, strategically and well. In between these layers was a piece of felt. This cap had once been stolen by Autolycus from a mentor, Armina's son. He'd broken in his well-built home in Iliad. Sometime later, Autolycus gave it to Amphidamas of Cythera to take back home to Scandia. Amphidamas then gave the cap to Molus as a present for his hospitality. Molus later gave it to his son, Meriones. And now it sat there, covering Odysseus' head. Two men, having put their fearful armor on, set off, leaving behind there all the most important chiefs. On their right, close to the path, Pallas Athena sent them a heron. In the darkness of the night, they did not see it with their eyes, but they heard its cry. Odysseus was pleased with the omen of this bird. He prayed then to Athena, Child of Aegis-bearing Zeus, untiring goddess, hear me. You've always stood beside me in all sorts of troubles. I don't move without you watching me. But now especially be my friend, Athena. Grant that we two come back to the ships, covered in glory, after doing something great, something the Trojans will regret. Then noble Diomedes, skilled in war cries, prayed. Child of Zeus, invincible goddess, hear me. Stand by me as you did my father, Lord Tydeus, at Thebes. At time he went a messenger, sent there by Achaeans. He'd left bronze-clad Achaeans at the Asopus, taking peace proposals to Cadmeans. On his way back he did some fearful things, with keen support from you, divine goddess. Be willing now to stand by me like that. Protect me, and I'll sacrifice to you an unbroken, yearling ox with a broad head, which no man yet had put beneath it to oak. I'll make that sacrifice to you, and more. On that beast, I'll plate both horns with gold. So they prayed, and Pallas Athena heard them. Their prayers to the daughter of great Zeus complete, they continued on their way, like two lions in the darkness of night, through the slaughter, through corpses, armor, through black pools of blood. For his part, Hector did not let his proud Trojans go to sleep. He called their finest men together, all the ones who commanded Trojans' troops, with all their rulers. To those assembled, he laid out a shrewd idea. Is there someone who will undertake for me an exploit, who will do it for a worthy gift? I'll guarantee you'll get a fine reward. I'll give a chariot and 2 strong-necked horses. The finest ones there are by those fast ships of the Achaeans. To any man who dares, who's fit to seize the glory for himself, by approaching close to those swift ships, to find out whether they're being guarded as before, or whether those men, beaten at our hands, plan among themselves to flee, and no longer wish to keep alert at night, exhausted by their desperate efforts. Hector finished. They all sat there in silence, saying nothing. Now among the Trojans was a man called Dolon, son of Eumedes, a sacred herald, a man rich in gold and bronze. Dolon wasn't much to look at, but he ran fast. He was the only male child with 5 sisters. At this point, he spoke up to Hector and the Trojans. Hector, my heart and my proud spirit prompt me to volunteer to sneak up to those fast ships and find out what I can. Come, raise your scepter, swear to me that you'll give me those horses and that chariot decorated all in bronze, which carry the fine son of Peleus. I'll not be a useless scout or disappoint you. I'll go straight through the enemy till I reach Agamemnon's ship, where their best men must be in council talking of their plans, whether to flee or to continue fighting. Dolon spoke. Holding up his spear, Hector swore, let Zeus himself, Hera's loud thundering husband, be my witness, that no other Trojan will be carried by those horses. I affirm that you will glory in them all your life. Hector spoke. He'd sworn an empty oath, but Dolon was encouraged. At once he slung across his shoulder his curved bow, then threw a gray wolfskin on it. On his head he set a cap of matin skin, grabbed a sharp spear, and set off, going from the camp towards the ships. He would not be coming back, bringing Hector information from the ships. But when he left the crowd of men and horses, he went eagerly along the path. As he moved, noble Odysseus saw him and said to Diomedes, Diomedes, someone's coming from the camp. I don't know if he's going to scout our ships or strip some dead man's corpse. Let's let him at first get past us on the plain, just a bit. Then we can go after him and catch him fast. If his feet outrun ours, we'll keep following him and chase him from his camp towards our ships. Keep brandishing your spear behind him so he doesn't make it to the city. After these words, the 2 men lay down beside the road, among the corpses. Dolon ran past them quickly, quite unaware. When he'd gone about as far as mules plow in a single day, and in deep fields they outwork oxen pulling double-jointed plows. The 2 men ran after them. When he heard their noise, Dolon stopped, hoping in his heart they were comrades coming from the Trojans to get him to turn back, Hector having changed the orders. But when they came within the distance of a spear throw or less, he saw that they were enemies and started running to get away as quickly as his legs could carry him. They set off chasing him with speed. Just as when 2 dogs, skilled hunting hounds with sharp fangs, harass some doe or hare relentlessly across a wooded country, the prey screaming as it runs, that's how Tydeus' son and Odysseus, destroyer of cities, pursued him, keeping Dolon from his people with their constant chase. When Dolon was about to run into the sentries in his flight towards the ships, at that point Athena put fighting power into Tydeus' son, so no bronze-clad Achaean could make the boast that he'd hit Dolon first, and that Diomedes had come up later. Springing forward with his spear, powerful Diomedes yelled, "Stop, or I'll hit you with my spear! I don't think you'll long escape complete destruction at my hands!" Diomedes shouted this, and then threw the spear, deliberately missing Dolon. The polished spear point sailed over his right shoulder, and then struck in the ground. Dolon just stood there, terrified, stammering, pale with fear. His teeth were chattering in his mouth. The 2 men ran up, panting, and grabbed his hands. Dolon began to cry and beg. "Take me alive, and I'll ransom myself. At home there is bronze, gold, well-wrought iron. My father will give lots of it to you, an immense ransom, if he finds out I'm at Achaeans' ships and I'm still alive." Crafty Odysseus smiled at him and said, "Don't worry. Don't let death weigh down your heart. Come now, tell me, and be sure to speak the truth. Why are you going like this to the ships alone, away from your army in the dead of night, when Other warriors are fast asleep. Are you going to strip some dead man's body, or has Hector sent you out to spy, to learn something about the hollow ships? Or did your own spirit prompt you to this? Dolan answered Odysseus, his limbs trembling. Hector led my mind astray with foolish hopes, lots of them. He promised he'd give me the sure-footed horses of Achilles, Peleus' excellent son, and his chariot with its bronze decoration. He told me to venture out into the swift dark night, get close to hostile troops, and then find out if they were guarding with their ships as before, or whether, now that we've defeated them, if they were planning flight among themselves, unwilling to keep up watch at night, exhausted by their desperate efforts. Shrewd Odysseus, still smiling, then continued. Your heart has been ambitious for big gifts. These horses of warrior Achilles, descendant of Aeacus, are hard to manage or control for any mortal person, except Achilles, son of an immortal mother. Tell me now, and be sure to speak the truth. When you came here, where did you leave Hector, shepherd to his people? Where is his armor? Where are his horses? How are the sentries of the other Trojans set? Where are they sleeping? Tell me what they talk of amongst themselves, whether they're keen to stay beside the ships, quite far from home, whether they'll return to the city, with the Achaeans beaten. Dolon, son of Eumedes, answered Odysseus. I'll answer you in this quite truthfully. Right now, Hector is with his advisors, holding a council meeting by the tomb of godlike Ilus, some distance from the noise. As for the guards you asked about, noble sir, there's nothing special to protect the troops or keep lookout. By all Trojan watchfires, as necessity requires, there are men who stay awake, calling to each other to keep up their guard. But the allied force, which comes from many lands, is sleeping. They leave it to Trojans to stay on watch, for their wives and children aren't close by. Crafty Odysseus, with a smile, then asked Dolon, now those allies, are they intermingled with horse-taming Trojans, or they sleep, or separate from them? Tell me. I need to know. Dolon, son of Eumedes, answered Odysseus, I can reveal the truths of this as well. By the sea lie Carians, Paeonians with their curved bows, the legions, Cocones, godlike Pelasgians. Around Dimber are positioned Lycians, Mysians, impetuous fighters, and the Phrygians who fight on horseback, and from Maeonia there are charioteers. But why you ask me details of these matters? If you're keen to infiltrate the Trojan army, over there are Thracians, fresh troops, new arrivals, furthest distant from the rest, among them their king Rhesus, son of Ionius. His horses are the best, the finest and largest ones I've ever seen, whiter than snow, as fast as the winds. His chariot is finely built with gold and silver. He came here with his armor, an amazing sight, huge and made of gold. It's not appropriate for mortal men to wear such armor, only deathless gods. But take me now to your fast ships, or else tie me up, leave me here in painful feathers so you can go and check my story out, see whether I've told the truth or not. Mighty Diomedes scowled at Dolon and said, Don't fill your heart with thoughts you'll get away, Dolon. Even though your news is good, you've fallen into our hands. Now if we released you or set you free for ransom, you'd come back to the swift Achaean ships, either to spy or fight us openly. But if my hands subdue you when you die, you'll pose no problems for the Argives later. As Diomedes finished, Dolon was intending to cup his chin with his strong hand in supplication. But with his sword, Diomedes jumped at him, slashed him across the middle of his neck, slicing through both tendons. Dolon's head rolled in the dust as he was speaking. They stripped the cap of marten's skin and took the wolf hide, long spear, and his curved bow. Lord Odysseus held these objects high above him for Athena, goddess of battle spoils, and he prayed. Goddess, these are for you, to bring you joy. We invoke you, first of all immortal gods, living on Olympus. Send us on again to where Thracians sleep and to those horses. So Odysseus prayed. He lifted the lute up high, placed it on a tamarisk bush, then set it there, a clear marker, grabbing up reeds and branches of tamarisk in full bloom so they wouldn't miss finding the spoils in the dark night when they returned. The two proceeded on through weapons and black blood. They quickly reached the camp of Thracian soldiers. The men were sleeping, worn out by their hard work, their lovely armor laying on the ground beside them, properly arranged in triple rows. Beside each man stood his yoked horses. In the middle Rhesus slept. Close by him his swift horses, tethered with their straps to the chariot's top rail. Odysseus saw him first. He pointed him out to Diomedes. There's our man, Diomedes. These are the horses which Dolon told us of, the man we killed. Come now, let's see that mighty strength of yours. It's not right for you to stand there idly with your weapons. So, loose those horses, or else kill the men while I take care of them. Odysseus spoke. Athena, with her glittering eyes, breathed fighting power into Diomedes. Moving around everywhere, he began the killing. Agonizing groans came from those his swords had butchered. The earth grew soggy with their blood, just as a lion comes across an unguarded flock of sheep or goats and leaps on them, hard thirsting for the kill. So Tydeus' sons went at those Thracian soldiers until he'd slaughtered 12. Whenever Diomedes stood over some man he just killed with his sword, crafty Odysseus from behind would grab his feet and drag the body clear. For his mind was planning how he would steal the fine mane horses easily, if he didn't fright them by forcing them to step on dead men's bodies, for they were not used to that. Tydeus' son came across the king, the 13th man whose sweet life he had taken. Rhesus lay there, in his last gasp. A bad dream had stood beside his head that night, a device sent by Athena, and that dream was the son of Tydeus. Meanwhile, bold Odysseus untied the sure-footed horses, roped them together, and drove them from the camp, prodding with his bow, for he'd forgotten to pick up the shining whip from the ornate chariot. Then he gave a whistle to signal Diomedes, but he just stayed there, wondering how he could do something really bold. Should he take away the chariot, which contained the king's finely decorated armor, pull it by the pole, or lift it above his head and carry it like that? Or should he take the lives of still more Thracians? While Diomedes turned over these matters in his head, Athena came, stood by him, and said to noble Diomedes, "Think of going back to the hollow ships, son of great-hearted Tydeus, in case you get driven there in quick retreat, if some other god wakes up the Trojans." She spoke. He recognized the goddess by her voice. He quickly climbed up on one of the horses. Odysseus smacked them with his bow. They raced ahead in a rush to reach the swift Achaean ships. But Apollo, of the silver bow, had not been unvigilant. Once he'd perceived Athena taking care of Tydeus' son. Angry with her, he went down into that huge crowd of Trojans and woke up Hippocoon, a Thracian counselor, one of the noble Rhesus family. Roused from sleep, he saw that where the horses stood was empty, the fearful carnage with men gasping in their death throes. He screamed in grief, crying out for his companion, calling him by name. Trojans created a commotion, totally confused as they rushed in all at once to gaze, astonished at the terrible destruction these two men did before returning to the hollow ships. When the pair came to where they'd slaughtered Hector's spy, Odysseus, dear to Zeus, pulled their swift horses up. The son of Tydeus jumped down onto the ground, handed over to Odysseus their blood-stained spoils, then got back on his horse. They whipped the horses on, racing willingly towards the hollow ships with eager hearts. Nestor was the first to hear them. He spoke up. "Friends, Argive leaders and counselors, my spirit prompts me to speak. But will I say something true or false? A sound beats in my ear, fast-moving horses' hooves. Perhaps as we speak, Odysseus and Midal Diomedes are driving sure-footed horses back from Trojans. But I fear in my anxious heart that Achaea's best are in trouble from pursuing Trojan forces. Before Nestor could finish, the two men arrived. They dismounted and were welcomed joyfully. Men shook their hands with warm congratulations. Geranian horseman Nestor was the first with questions. "Renowned Odysseus, great glory of Achaeans, tell me how you two obtained these horses. Did you sneak into that crowd of Trojans? Or did you meet some god who gave them to you? They're astonishing, like rays of the sun. I'm always going in among the Trojans, and I claim I don't malinger by the ships, although I'm an old man for a warrior. But I've never seen, never imagined horses like these. I think some god met you and gave them to you. For cloud-gathering Zeus loves both of you, as does bright-eyed Athena, daughter of Aegis-bearing Zeus." Odysseus grinned at Nestor and answered him, "O Nestor, son of Neleus, great glory of Achaeans, if a god wanted to, he'd easily give even better horses, for gods are much more powerful than us. But these horses which you ask about, old men, are from Thrace, new arrivals. Brave Diomedes killed their master, along with all 12 of his companions, their finest men. There was a 13th killed, a spy we captured near the ships, sent there by Hector and the other haughty Trojans to scout around our camp." Odysseus finished, and he laughed with triumph, driving the sure-footed horses past the ditch. Other Achaeans came after him, rejoicing. When they reached Diomedes' well-constructed hut, they tethered the horses with cut straps in the stall, where Diomedes' own swift horses stood, munching their sweet grain. Odysseus put the blood-stained lute from Dolon into his ship's stern until they'd made an offering to Athena. Then the two men waded into the sea, washed off their legs and necks and thighs, removing all the sweat. Once the surf had taken layers of sweat from off their skin and their hearts had been refreshed, they stepped in shining tubs and bathed. They washed, rubbing lots of smooth oil on themselves, and sat down to eat. From the brimming wine bowl, they drew off sweet wine and poured libations to Athena. The end.